The story begins with lawyer Elliot Kittner, who works for a pharmaceutical company and is up for a promotion. For this reason, he accepts an invitation to spend a weekend at the house of his boss, Adel Leopold, which is isolated high in the mountains. His daughter Ridley isn't very excited, as she is against the company's practices, and her mood only worsens with her father's incessant sneezing. As Elliot explains that they are on an exclusive and almost unexplored reserve, we see a dark cave from which a strange neighing sound emerges. The cell phone signal worsens as the car drives through the mountains, and Elliot gets nervous during a call with his boss, who seems irritated by their delay. Ridley is startled when her father starts to hit the accelerator, and after the connection drops, they begin to argue about not paying attention to the road. It's at that very moment that Elliot hits what appears to be a white pony, and the car spins before stopping a few meters ahead. Elliot grabs a tool in case the animal gets scared, and the two of them go to check the damage. Their expressions fill with astonishment as they get closer, as the horn on the animal's forehead shows that this is no pony. While Elliot thinks about what to do, Ridley sees the horn glowing and can't resist the temptation to touch it, triggering a kind of cosmic trance. The vision is abruptly interrupted when her father starts bashing the unicorn's head like a maniac. She is shocked, and they both end up covered in black goo. When they arrive at the mansion, we see they've left the creature's body in the car. The governess, Shaw, opens the door, guiding the guests in, while Belinda Leopold and her son, Shepard, accompany Elliot and Ridley to Adel's office. Adel suffers from cancer and appears very frail. Still in shock, Ridley lies, saying she doesn't feel well and wants to leave, but Elliot assures her it's nothing. She goes to the bathroom to wash her face and is surprised to see her acne has disappeared. In the other room, Elliot fumbles a bit with some documents because of his glasses. Strangely, his vision seems to have greatly improved with the naked eye. Meanwhile, unseen by anyone, the unicorn's horn lights up, and the animal begins to show signs of life. Ridley interrupts the meeting to speak with her father privately, and he begs her to cooperate, vowing to bury the unicorn during the night when everyone is asleep. This plan gets complicated when they both hear a kicking sound. Seeing the car shake, Elliot tries to come up with an excuse to handle the matter secretly, but the noise is noticed by the butler, Griff. The Leopolds are surprised when Shaw suggests they must have hit one of the animals from the reserve. Everyone goes outside to see the commotion, just as a hoof smashes the car window and the horn pierces the roof. Elliot tries to explain himself as soon as the movement stops, but then the unicorn appears at the window screaming and trying to escape. Ridley is horrified when Shaw arrives with a gun and shoots it at point-blank range. The group gathers around the body, and everyone begins to describe the unknown species, doing their best to avoid the word unicorn. Ridley is the only one brave enough to call it that, and it's then that her father notices the change in her face, confessing to the hit and run and the psychotic way he tried to put the animal down. Elliot explains that he was also hit by the black jets of goo. This explains why he stopped sneezing, in addition to having regained perfect vision. The only possible conclusion is that the creature's blood has incredible healing properties. Ridley suggests calling the authorities to collect the body, but Adel refutes the idea, invoking the free spirit of the mythical being as an excuse to do whatever they want with it. Belinda also says that bureaucracy can be intolerable and implies that Elliot's reputation would be at risk. On the other hand, if he agrees to cover up the incident, it would also resolve the hit-and-run problem without major consequences. Ridley is disappointed to see her father accept the deal so quickly. She then talks about her cosmic visions and explains her feeling that they shouldn't leave the unicorn with the Leopolds, but Elliot responds insensitively, still completely focused on his promotion. Kicked out of the room, he goes to talk with Shepard, while Ridley discovers an image of a unicorn in an old photo of her mother. Shepard asks Elliot why he is hated by his own daughter, and he seems surprised by the idea, but just as he begins to answer, they both fall silent. Suddenly, a chilling sound comes from the forest, sounding like a threatening roar. Shepard gets scared and gives up on the jacuzzi, quickening his pace to get inside. Upstairs, Ridley discovers that the image is a replica of the famous unicorn tapestries, a 15th century work that tells a 7-part story. According to the illustrations, a group of hunters managed to kill one of the invincible unicorns after years of trying. They took it to the castle where the creature was resurrected and held captive. It only calms down upon finding the pure heart of a young maiden. One of the tapestries is incomplete, but a recent reconstruction revealed the most disturbing image of the seven, in which a herd of unicorns tears their human enemies to pieces. That night, Ridley has a strange nightmare about the cave in the mountains and sees everything through the eyes of a unicorn. She is woken up by a visit from two scientists in hazmat suits who drag her to a laboratory along with her father. They are Dr. Song and Dr. Bhatia, both extremely excited by the opportunity to study the creature. Bhatia proudly presents the chemical compound obtained from the horn, and the Leopolds authorize the extraction to continue. The substance they developed from the ground-up horn is then injected into Adel's 4, and everyone anxiously awaits the results, while Ridley walks out in protest. Bhatia informs them that the electromagnetic radiation from the horn seems to have increased without explanation. Walking through the forest, Ridley finds a tree marked with horn scrapes high up on the trunk. She gets scared when the roars begin and runs back to the mansion, where she continues her research on unicorns. Shepard encourages her and even asks Griff to bring a printer to help her. When her father appears in the hallway, he is strong and rejuvenated. Adel has gotten out of bed without needing a wheelchair, and tests now confirm that his cancer is in spontaneous remission. Adel is ecstatic, not only for his health, but for the business opportunities that discovering the cure for cancer represents. The bad news is that Song claims it's impossible to replicate the substance in the lab, as the unicorn's genetic composition is incompatible with the laws of nature, meaning all they have is the horn. Belinda encourages her husband to think positively, as they can set any price they want for such a rare remedy with such enormous demand. After many phone calls, the Leopolds meet with Elliot, who at this point is somewhat disoriented by all the money flowing into the company. Ridley immediately ruins the family's toast with the results of her parallel research and spreads the unicorn tapestry on the floor, explaining that this story has been repeated several times. The legend of the unicorn has changed over time, as they were initially seen as monsters. Their miraculous blood was already known in the Middle Ages, but all who dared to hunt the animal for some kind of cure ended up dying in an even worse way. The Leopolds practically mock these theories, and Elliot is embarrassed by his daughter's naive idealism. Shaw and Griff make preparations to transport the unicorn's body to the company headquarters while Ridley goes to the car, wanting to be alone. It's then that all the lights suddenly go out, and Bhatia shows her colleague that the radiation is at its highest point. Still in the car, Ridley hears that monstrous roar again and sees her cell phone screen flicker as if suffering from some kind of interference. The Leopolds tell Elliot to find out what happened, and he goes to talk to the scientist just as Dr. Song seems to feel something on his back, receiving a shower of railings right in the face. Bhatia takes a moment to comprehend what just happened when she sees a gigantic horn piercing her colleague from right behind Elliot. Elliot sees his daughter outside and yells for her to get in the car and lock the doors. She obeys but keeps trying to see with her phone's flashlight, which attracts the beast that comes trotting towards her and charges the car. Elliot runs and opens a back door, helping Ridley escape from the massive fangs roaring at the window. The unicorn is then surrounded by security guards in a scene very similar to one of the tapestries, and all their efforts cannot contain the animal. Hiding under the car, Elliot and Ridley watch up close as one of its hooves crushes a guard's skull. Ridley decides to take advantage of a gap to run to the mansion, and the unicorn pursues her, but she manages to close the door in time. However, when it approaches and looks at her through the slats, it becomes clear that it didn't destroy the fragile little door because it didn't want to. Elliot is dumbfounded to see the creature pass its horn through the gap, all lit up in a clear invitation to the girl who reaches out her hand. She touches it, but Shaw fires at that moment, scaring the unicorn away. Touching a puddle of black liquid, she realizes she at least managed to hide it. After everyone returns safely to the mansion, the Leopolds question the girl's predictions, doubting she could be so right about the true nature of unicorns after just a few hours on Google. She tells them about her visions and explains that she has developed a kind of connection with the foal. Adel is convinced that the only thing to do is capture the adult so he can touch the horn, believing it will grant him immunity from possible attacks. Always masking his true motives, the family argues that it would be cruel to prolong the wounded animal's suffering and that they shouldn't let Dr. Song's death be in vain. Shepard also reminds them that every horn obtained means dozens of people can be cured of any disease. Otto gets in a good mood, puts on a suit, and demands that Elliot accompany him. Ridley begs him to refuse and go home with her because she no longer wants to be a part of this, but Odell promises he'll make him a partner in the company as soon as they return from the hunt, and this convinces him. Shepard makes an excuse to stay at the mansion and takes advantage of a conversation with Patia to steal the vial containing the miracle compound, convincing her to cut off the foal's horn. Outside, Shaw uses her device as an alarm, measuring the radiation around the group. Shepard inspects the vial he stole and accidentally spills some of the powder. While cleaning up the mess he made, he can't resist his curiosity and tastes a pinch. Ridley is already packed and determined to leave, but returns to Shepard. He rolls up a $100 bill to snort the unicorn substance. The effect seems to be immediate, and his eyes glow with a supernatural light. Reaching the car, Ridley begins to have doubts about leaving her father with these people. Thinking about the tapestries, she remembers a detail she had forgotten and goes back to confirm, reaching the same conclusion as Patia. The foal is not dead, as its species regenerates so easily that it even allows for resurrection. This only makes Shepard more obsessed with the horn, which fills Ridley with worry as her father and the others have gone hunting, thinking they would be facing a wounded animal. At the same time, she tries to get Griff to call them back. The group approaches the creature in the middle of the forest, and Elliot only sees his daughter's messages when Odell is already a meter away from the beast. He tries to warn Shaw, but she is more concerned with Patia's device, which is beeping as if there's another radiation source nearby. She discovers why when the second adult unicorn bites her shoulder and lifts her into the air. The pair of beasts attacks the group, eliminating several guards one by one. With night vision binoculars, Elliot sees one of the unicorns preparing to charge him and ducks just in time as another guard is hit. Odell and Elliot are the only ones who manage to escape and run back, but they can't close the gate in time, and the unicorns reach the mansion's garden. Trapped between the two, Odell changes his strategy and tries to tame them, reaching for one of their horns. To everyone's surprise, the unicorn bows before him and the horn begins to glow. However, this was just a positional adjustment for the attack, and the horn goes into Odell's chin, coming out the top of his head. Watching from inside the house, the others recoil in horror as Griff quickly closes the main door. Elliot decides to call the police, and even the Leopolds agree with the idea this time, but the connection is lost and the lights suddenly go out. Ridley wants to return the foal to appease the monsters, but Belinda says it won't help now because the gate is electric, and they would be trapped there with the unicorns anyway. Griff explains that it's possible to open the gate manually if someone is willing to venture to the machine house at the other end of the garden. Belinda and Shepard choose Griff himself for the task, justifying the cruelty with the fact that he knows how to operate the gate best. Outraged by the injustice, he leaves through the tunnel while the others prepare to flee, and Patia packs the horn for travel. When she goes out into the garden with the foal, it's not long before the unicorn couple appears, but the offering is not well received. Ridley can't explain why it's not working, and Patia decides to run for the gate, which begins to open as Griff furiously turns the crank. Before she gets there, she realizes the unicorns have disappeared and calls for the others to hurry out, but then she is struck by a horn. The other unicorn bites one of her feet, and the pair of beasts begins to fight over the prey, tearing her apart. Griff escapes in terror while the other four run back inside, and Shepard announces that he has solved the riddle through the tapestry. The only thing that can defeat the unicorns is a young woman with a pure heart, and by sheer luck, there is one right there. The idea of using his daughter as bait is the last straw for Elliot, who informs the Leopolds of his resignation, shocking them with his lack of dedication to the company. Without any ceremony, Shepard inhales some of the horn in front of his mother, entering a trance again. Elliot and Ridley are planning their escape when Belinda recovers and stops them from leaving. Everyone freezes as they see the mythical beast appear right at the window, prowling around the house until it reaches the front and begins to charge the door. The four of them run in the opposite direction and discover that the other one is nearly tearing down the laboratory wall. When the unicorn at the front finally breaks down the door, Elliot runs upstairs with his daughter, while Leopold looks for another exit. The other unicorn also manages to invade the house, and each goes after one of the pairs. Elliot locks himself in a room with Ridley and carefully peeks through the door, but still gets a huge scare when the unicorn's grimace suddenly appears. Belinda and Shepard are also in trouble, huddled behind a wall that the other unicorn is breaking through. Shepard throws a shoe to divert its attention, buying time to escape with his mother, but not before grabbing the container with the horn. However, when he begins to explain his elaborate plans to save himself and still gain fame for the discovery, Belinda opens the container and finds it empty. Upstairs, Elliot shows Ridley that he stole the horn to make sure they wouldn't leave empty-handed. She is shocked by his greed, but he apologizes. He explains that he promised his late wife he would make his daughter happy no matter what. Only now has he finally understood that her happiness is not tied to money, and he admits that he selfishly strayed from that purpose without thinking about what she really wanted. Downstairs, Belinda leans against a bookshelf to listen for the intruder's movements, and as soon as she tells her son that the unicorn seems to be gone, the horn pierces the shelves and strikes her body. The monster drags her into another room and begins to toss her from side to side while Shepard tries to aim a flaming arrow at Odell's oxygen tank. He loses his courage, and Belinda meets a terrible end when the unicorn rips out her insides with its mouth. Meanwhile, Elliot locks Ridley in to face the beast alone, opening the door at just the right moment. He forces the unicorn to follow his lead and uses that split second to flee. He is already in the garden when Ridley manages to jump into a bush, but then Shepard appears behind her and starts threatening her with the arrow. He forces her to wait for the unicorns next to the foal, trusting the information from the tapestry about a pure heart. It doesn't take long for one of them to accept the invitation, coming up and roaring right in the girl's face. She closes her eyes in fear, but when she opens them, she sees that Shepard was right, as the unicorn is resting its head on her lap, almost snoring. Shepard runs to tie the beast's legs, and then they both hear a neigh. They are astonished to see the other unicorn also practically tamed by Elliot, following the horn in his hand until it lies down next to Ridley. Shepard praises the employee's proactivity while continuing to tie the legs and promises various rewards, but now Elliot is at the end of his patience and prefers to use the horn to attack the last Leopold. Shepard counters with one of the arrows, and Ridley runs to help her father while the unicorns begin to move. As Shepard gets up, still wanting to grab the horn, a precise kick ends his ambitions once and for all. Elliot also succumbs, but doesn't stay dead for long. The pair of unicorns drags the man to their foal, and after kneeling, they touch their horns, creating a small magical storm that restores him. They also revive the foal's horn and bring it back to life along with Elliot. As soon as the unicorns leave, Griff arrives at the mansion with the police. Without any kind of supernatural creature to explain the horror show, the father and daughter are immediately arrested. However, as the suspects are being taken away, the unicorn family appears on the road to free them, and the two fasten their seatbelts, knowing the car is about to be attacked.
If you want interesting movie recaps, like, share, and subscribe to follow us for more movie recaps.